This is the I Love Success podcast. I'm Jumrukovski, and I have made a vow to myself to help as many people as possible to achieve their dreams. Let's get started. Hey everybody, this is Jumrukovski, the host of the I Love Success podcast. I just want to thank you for listening to my podcast. Today I just finished recording this awesome talk with Mark Dhamma. He's a performance coach here in LA. He used to live in Manchester, England, and when he was 13, he overheard a conversation with his mom and grandfather about he being too fat, and that kind of changed his life. He got into fitness, personal training, and then coaching. He's worked with Tai Lopez, he's worked with a lot of big executives and CEOs. So this is the real deal. He's into meditation, he's into martial arts. If you want to learn something, you should check this podcast out. We're gonna start right now. Let's go. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you very much, Peter.
I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
So I was very impressed by you this morning when I walked down to meet you, because you were sitting there having your meal box with your very, very intense, some fish, some salad, and you've already been to the gym, right?
Yeah, you know, it was funny. Last night I got to bed a lot later than I wanted to. I got to bed about 11:30, which is late for me. I like to be in bed by 8:30, so I can get to bed at 8:30, fall asleep about 9, wake up around 5:30, plenty of sleep, feeling good. But last night, for whatever reason, I ended up getting to bed later, and when the alarm went off at 5:30 this morning to go to the gym, I was like, oh, I really don't want to go. I want to go back to sleep. Yeah. And I was like laying there thinking, oh, shall I go back to sleep? And I was tossing and turning, thinking, oh, shall I get up? Should I go to gym? And then I was like, wait a minute. I'm about to go on Peter's I Love Success podcast. So I better get my ass up and get myself to the gym. So that's the story there. So I did get to the gym, had a fantastic workout, and I was just eating my breakfast when I got here. So thank you.
I love that.
You inspired me already, Peter.
Thank you. And I love that what you were saying, because this is normal. Even though you are a performance coach, you know all of these things. When you're tired, you lay in the bed, you have those two voices in your head. Should I lay in the bed or should I get the fuck up? Right?
Yeah.
So you got the fuck up, and I love that. And that's because you had...
It wasn't easy.
It wasn't
easy at all.
But is it for anyone?
No.
That's the thing. I think a lot of times when we look at people, or when people that doesn't do this look at people, it's easy for him because he's healthy. He probably eats very well. He does, but it's not easy. Everybody has their problems. Everybody has their own things going on in their life, but you still got to do it. You show up for life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're gonna honor you in this show and your journey and the tools that you use with your clients. But let's start with Mark. Who are you really as a person?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. Who am I really as a person? Well, I really define a part of who I am with my mission. And my mission is to increase the health, happiness, and success rate of entrepreneurs. And the reason why I chose that as a mission for my life is I believe that entrepreneurs are the real change agents of the world. Growing up, I used to look at governments to do good in the world and make sure that everyone's living peacefully and happily and the environment's being well looked after and everything's working. I just thought, oh yeah, government does that. And as I got older and older, and in this day and age, we're seeing that actually entrepreneurs are making huge changes. Entrepreneurs are the type of people like yourself, Peter, who see problems in the world and they'll come up with creative solutions. Entrepreneurs are willing to risk everything, and they're willing to fail, and they're willing to go against the status quo to come up with a solution to fix issues. So I figured like, hey, you know, I might not be the best entrepreneur, but over the years of development, the skills I've developed, and also a natural strength is I'm really good at helping people be at their best, perform at their best, whether that's with the energy, whether that's focus, whether it's the mindsets, the way they see things. I'm great at helping people perform at their best. If I can help entrepreneurs to perform at their best, be healthier, happier, more successful, then maybe I can help them make some of the positive changes that I believe needs to happen in this on this earth, especially around the environment. I think the environment, we're having huge environmental problems right now, and you know, some governments are doing some things, some governments are not doing anything, and some governments are making things worse, like the US government currently, you know, making things worse. So I want to empower and help entrepreneurs, especially environmental focused ones, to like, hey, this is up to us, this is up to our generation. You and I, Peter, we're the same age, you know, and I don't know what it was like for you growing up, but for me, I was sort of conditioned to think that, you know, the world's problems it's up to someone else to fix. And now getting into my 30s, well, I'm 32, 33 this year, you know, I've realized, well, no, it's really up to me and all of us to fix, you know, because it ain't gonna happen otherwise unless we all take responsibility for the world we live in. Like, nothing's gonna happen. So that's where I'm at.
You're so right. And let's start with this young kid, Mark, in Manchester, England. So how was life growing up there? And can you just walk us through that day until your grandfather, you overheard him say you were fat? Because I had a life-changing moment as well. I'm born and raised in Sweden, but my origin is I'm Macedonian. So during the summers, I went to my grandfather and grandparents and relatives. And I remember one moment, I think I was 11 or 12, I was sitting in his lap and he was feeling my fat. It's like, you're too fat.
No way.
and that, I think he forgot it right away. But for me, I never forgot that. And after that, I don't know if it was in a good or bad way, but it changed my life because I had that in the back of my mind and I wanted to be fit, you know. And I was training all the time, just like you said. I was doing soccer and rugby. I did karate, but I was still a little bit overweight. And that moment when I read that, this is interesting how someone's word can actually impact you that much, and we have to be careful with how we express ourselves. So please.
And you know what's funny about that, like, words can have a huge effect, and I don't think my granddad was thinking too much about it, but I'm actually glad he did do that, because it made me take responsibility and transformed it. And to all the listeners here and the viewers, what's interesting is actually Peter and I, we're born a month apart. You're what day?
May 29th.
May 29th. I'm June 24th. Both 1985. So that's interesting.
It's pretty cool.
So growing up, I was really quiet, a really introverted child, really quiet. Didn't have much confidence. I actually used to get bullied a lot in school because I grew up in a really white area, North Manchester. Town called Rochdale, very like working class town, and I'm you can't, if you're listening to this you can't really see, but I'm like half black, half white, mixed race, and there really wasn't many black or mixed families in the whole town. I think there was like 3 in the whole town of quite a few thousand people, and so I got quite a lot of racism growing up. I was fighting in elementary. I remember being 4 years old fighting.
British are tough.
Because I'm like, people were like making fun of me. And then I remember being 8 years old and getting spat in the face at school because of my colour. And it was, at the time, it was weird because that was just normal life for me. And that's what got me into judo, because I needed to learn self-defense, right? And then anyhow, I went into high school, which in the UK, you go at 11, there's no middle school in the UK anymore. And in high school, the same thing, I had low confidence. I was good at sports, good at rugby, good at soccer. But again, I'd have older kids coming to fight me because...
Were you small? Because you're pretty big now.
Well, I was tall, but I wasn't like muscular or anything. I was like pretty tall. I wasn't muscular, and I was a bit overweight. I was just a bit skinny fat, but I was a bit overweight. And I came home. They'd make fun of me at school for being a bit overweight, and the girls would make fun of me, and I was like, oh, whatever. And then I came home one day, and my grandfather my grandfather told my mum that he thought I was too fat. So then my mum said to me, Mark, your granddad thinks you're too fat. Yeah. And the way I took it was like, man, I'm getting made fun of at school for being overweight. I come home and my grandfather's making fun of me. He's like picking on me. And it really upset me. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. That's it. I'm never going to be called fat again. What do I need to do? So I went into school the following day, and I spoke to like the guy who was like 13 years old, 12, 13. There was one guy who testosterone hit way early, puberty hit way early. He was like 6 foot, had an 8-pack, really muscular. He was called Paul Gray. So I went to Paul and said, Paul, how do I get a 6-pack, mate? How do I do it? And he said, he took pity on me, and like sort of put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, Mark, come into school tomorrow and I'll bring something for you. I was like, really, Paul? I was like, yeah, I'll bring it in for you. I was like, oh, thank you. So I go into school the following day, and he did indeed have a little 6 weeks to 6-pack abs, men's fitness pull out, the little booklets that they do. And he gave me that and said, look, just do all the exercises in this every night. So I was like, okay, will I get a 6-pack? And he was like, yeah, just do all the exercises. That's what I do. So I was like, all right, great. So I remember going home that night. I did like 2 sit-ups before getting cramp. But I went back the next night, and I remember I did 6 sit-ups. So one night I did 2, the next night I did 6. So to me that was progress. I was like, wow, this is working. Yeah. And then I just kept asking my mum to buy fitness magazines and learn about the nutrition. I'd do the training, and I remember the first thing that I learned about nutrition was that water is good for you. That was the first thing I learned about nutrition, that water is good for you, because I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know water was good for you. I didn't like the taste of water. Yeah. All I used to drink was soda, milk, and concentrated fruit juice. Oh. That's all I drink. Like Coca-Cola, Fanta, drink concentrate. That's it. I didn't drink water. So I was like, man, water is good for you. Okay, well, these magazines are saying it. So how about I'll just drink water for 2 weeks. I won't drink anything else. I'll just force myself to drink it for 2 weeks. And sure enough, I did. After the first week, I actually liked drinking water, and it was fine. I felt a lot better. And after 2 weeks, I'd lost like 5 pounds or something. Oh, wow. So then I was like, okay, keep going down that route. So I did. By the time I was 15, I was in great shape. I was in awesome shape. By the time then I was really into training. I was like playing rugby, like pretty high level quite often. Then I went to college where I studied sports science and physiology, and I was playing rugby at college. I wanted to be a professional rugby player. Oh. And then I got a bad knee injury. And what was interesting is at the time, because I was like the ugly kid who was out of shape and I was always being made fun of for being fat, when I got in shape, that became my whole life. That became my whole identity. Like me being a great athlete and looking great and being a great, being really strong and being a bit of a jock, as they would say in the UK, that in the US, that was my thing. So when I had this bad knee injury, tore my ACL, and like I had like a misdiagnosed and I couldn't play rugby, I sort of lost my identity. I sort of like was just left with Mark instead of Mark the athlete or Mark the Mark the tough rugby player. And that actually sent me into a bit of a spiral of depression, where I just didn't really like myself. I created this whole front of who I was, which was based around being an athlete, and then behind it, I was empty.
It's so interesting what you're saying, because just to reflect on the beginning, why you actually started working out, it was out of pain. You were fed up. And I think one thing that I want to hear your opinion about this, because a lot of people are afraid of pain, but I think to really get that motivation, a lot of times you have to have the pain to be able to move forward, because people will stick with something that is half good all their life, but when you have pain, you gotta change, right?
Yes.
What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, well, absolutely. You know, there's the two the biggest motivators for human beings are moving towards pleasure, and moving away from pain. And as you know, Peter, the biggest motivator of the two is some people are more motivated to move towards pleasure. The majority of people, including myself, are more motivated to move away from pain.
No, you're right. And interesting that you're saying there you were the athlete. So I agree with everything, because I lived the same thing.
Yeah.
I was not tall. I was the small kid, and I was the small overweight kid. And then I started training a lot, and even had some problems with eating because I didn't eat. I wanted to become skinny and fit, you know. Mm-hmm. But then when I got skinny and fit, I got my six pack. I was still the shortest, but now I also was the smallest guy. So that didn't help me a lot. And then I kept training, and then I became good at karate, which gave me confidence. But then when I wanted to attract girls, then it was a problem, because there was nothing else than this jock, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can relate to that, but it was interesting.
Yeah, I can relate, and it's funny you mentioned up the girl thing, because when I had my knee operation, I lost a lot of weight. I lost maybe about 45 pounds, something. I think it was I probably was weighing in about 220, 215, and I dropped down to less than 180, way less than that.
So you were this big, strong,
I was a big muscular guy.
Yeah.
And then I just had lost my motivation and was feeling depressed, you know, and I wasn't eating, I wasn't training, I just lost a lot of weight. And a friend of mine at the time, he was basically, you know, into selling steroids and performance enhancing drugs, and I was around that, you know, and I was like, man, well, you know, I really should start making some money, you know, since I'm not a jock or athlete anymore. You know, maybe I'll fill up my ego. I didn't think like this, but this is the way I was basically operating. It was like, well, I need to be something else. Well, maybe I need to have money. Then I'm good enough, type of thing. So I had a friend, and he sort of encouraged me to get into selling steroids and performance enhancing drugs, and I was like, all right, make some money, cool. So I actually took some myself for 6 weeks, some steroids, and I just put on all the weight I'd lost within 6 weeks, all of it. Just put on all that muscle I actually got bigger than I was before. And the original plan was to do the steroids longer than 6 weeks, but by 6 weeks I was like, man, I'm bigger. I'm looking weird now. I'm bigger than I was before. I'll just stop right there. And I actually got into, you know, doing sales of that stuff, and that led me to a whole nother depth of depression, because the whole journey, I started the whole journey because I wanted to lose fat, but really I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be healthy. I just wanted to figure out how to be healthy. And I sort of did that the natural way, and then I started encouraging people to get in shape through unhealthy means. And the interesting thing is, I don't know, ever since being a kid, I think it's because I grew up in a white area and I wasn't really accepted. I didn't really fit in with the group. I wasn't accepted. So I was always on the outskirts of the group. I was always looking in. I was never a part of it. I could just observe and watch. And through doing that, I think it really helped me understand people and figure out how people work, and just being able to observe people and what's going on with them. And when I got into, you know, the dealing, I used that to my advantage. I would look at people and I would see where they had insecurities, whether it's around their weight, you know, whether if they were muscular or if they're too fat, and I would prey on those insecurities to sell them things. that I knew weren't good for them, you know, but would
Why
make
did you
me
do
money.
it?
Money. I wanted to make money. So I was, if I knew you, Peter, and you know you was like had a bit of a issue that you felt you was too small, I'd be like, oh Peter, you're looking a bit small today, you know, and you'd be like, what? I was like, yeah, have you been sick or something? Have you lost some weight? And you might be like, what the hell are you talking about? And I'd be like, well, you know, you should take some gear because you're looking a bit too skinny right now, and sell it to make some money. And
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying. So I was making money, but it was eating my soul away. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror because I'm like, you know, what type of person am I? You know. And then sorry, Peter.
Yeah, no, sorry. What did you do with the money? I'm curious.
I just spend it on like going out, drinks, drugs, girls, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing great. Yeah. Nothing useful. Just I was just living I was actually a fitness model at the time too. So I was modeling, partying, doing drugs, selling stuff, and that was my life. But I wasn't happy, and my life was falling apart. Bad things were happening.
Thank you so much for sharing this, because I think there's so many people in this world that are doing this because they're insecure. You want to fit in somewhere, right? And you want to fit into this picture of how a young guy or a girl should look, should act, should have. And basically it's bullshit, right? Because you were the cool guy.
Yes.
Bulk, you're selling, you're probably got some girls because of that, you're going out, you're taking drugs, but at the end of the day, it's nothing.
I was empty.
Yeah.
I was worse than empty. I was empty and sad inside.
But what would you tell, like if you could go back and talk to, because there's a lot of guys out there doing that, and I think we all have went through that phase in our life in some way, more or less. What if you could go back, or if you could meet someone that doing this, what would you tell them?
It's funny you mention that. I said to my wife all the time, I say, if I could go back in time, like the Terminator or something, and come out and speak to myself, and I could only give one message, the one message I would give myself is, I'd hold myself, I'd grab myself by the collar, look directly in his eyes, shake myself and say, Mark, meditate every single day. Do that every single day. And then I'd give myself a bit of a slap and point in my face and say, meditate every single day. That's what I would do.
I love that. I think I love it because like I've had so many different type of guests here, and like 90% meditate. And the hard part is, how do you get that young jock that sells steroids to meditate? How do you get that guy to do that? Because if you can, it's incredible. But how can we get to that level, or take him to a yoga class? You know, how do we do that?
Man, that's a good question. I'm trying to figure out myself, because I think the only way I would there's two ways I would listen to that when I was younger. One way I would listen to that is if I did, my future self went back in time like the Terminator, showed up in front of myself, because then I'd be like, holy crap, like I've come back in time to tell me this. I probably should listen to me. So that's the one way. But if that wasn't going to happen, maybe the other way is just linking meditate. Like you said, 90% of the people come on this podcast meditate. You know, there's an interesting fact. Tim Ferriss's podcast, he says over 80% of his guests meditate. So I think we need to tell those young guys, like, hey, if you want to be rich and successful and get what you want out of life, this meditation is going to help you get there. Because at that point, you know, I just wanted money, I wanted girls, I wanted to look good, I wanted the stats. That's all I cared about. And if someone was like, hey, meditation's going to help you make money, get girls, get status, I'd probably be like, oh, okay, I probably should do that.
Yeah. No, you're right. One thing that I thought about when we talked about this now and before downstairs is one thing that can get you into meditation is something else, and that is martial arts, I think. Because a lot of these cool, especially guys, they want to fight. They want to know how to fight, at least. And I think martial art is doing a great job, because a lot of tough kids it's almost like you put them in like a drying machine. It's called drying machine. And when they come out, if they stick with the martial art for 5-6 years, it's a new person. Because we have meditation in martial arts, we have all those things. And at the end of the day, it's not about knocking someone out, even if your ability is to do that. What do you think about that tool?
Absolutely agree. You know, before the show, Peter and I were having a great conversation about martial arts. And yeah, I was telling Peter, I go to the Grouchy Academy in Torrance, which is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy. And the mat, before you walk in the building, the mat, it has the Grouchy logo and it says, "Leave your ego at the door." And I think that's what martial arts gives you. You know, you can go in thinking you're the baddest, toughest guy. You know, you spend your first day in a martial arts studio and you'll get your ass kicked by everybody in there, even the girls, you know, sometimes they'll beat your ass, and you soon realize that, all right, you know, me thinking I'm the best, it probably actually isn't true because I just got my ass kicked so many times. And then it teaches you humility, I believe. It teaches you a lot of discipline in martial arts. Humility, discipline, and if you do want to get better, then you got to, we were talking about this earlier, if you want to be great at fighting, well, then you've got to master your own mindset. Like you've had Leo Machida on the podcast before, and you spoke all about that, you know, the mindset of being a martial artist. And it really goes, you could say it even goes back to the samurai, the Japanese samurai. The Japanese samurai used to meditate like crazy. You meditate to focus the mind, to sharpen the mind, to be clear and get rid of all the extra stuff that your mind conjures up, which actually blinds you from the reality situation. And as you know better than pretty much anyone, Peter, if you're in a fight and you're worrying about what you look like, or you know, you're thinking about anything else other than being in the present moment, especially in karate, you know, you're gonna get your ass kicked.
That's true. So how short can a meditation be to be effective?
That's a great question. You know, I really see a parallel between meditation and physical training. I think there's a great parallel between jogging and meditation. Now, let's say you don't do any exercise, you don't do any working out, you don't do any training whatsoever. A 5-minute jog every day is better than nothing. Absolutely better than nothing. A 10-minute jog is better than a 5-minute jog. You know, all right, you're not going to be an athlete, you're not going to be super fit, but it's going to have a little bit of benefit. Definitely better than nothing. If you're doing 20 minutes jogging a day, all right, you might not look like a fitness model, but you are definitely improving your health. Like research says 20 minutes a day, you're going to have lower cholesterol, lower blood pressure, you're going to be healthier overall. Once you start doing more, you know, an hour, whatever, then you get into like more elite levels of training. Very much the same as meditation. 5 minutes is definitely better than nothing. 10 minutes is better than 5 minutes. If you do 20 minutes a day, you're definitely going to notice a difference. All right, you're not going to be a Jedi Master, okay? You're not going to be Obi-Wan or Luke, but it's definitely better than the average. Once you start getting to the hour a day, 2 hour a day, that's when you are becoming a Jedi Master. It's funny, I just posted on Instagram story before coming in here. I personally now have built up to the point, I like to do an hour a day. Ideally, I want to do 2 hours a day so I can be a Jedi Master, but I usually hit about an hour. And on the way here, I got 15 minutes in because I was having a great conversation with the Uber driver. So I did 15 minutes, better than nothing. And I posted on the Instagram, you know, the Dalai Lama, oftentimes before he has a speech, he'll meditate for 4 hours before the speech. 4 hours straight, just so his mind is completely clear, he's out of the way, and, you know, I think so that he can fully express, he would say, his Buddha nature, so he can fully like get out of his own way, get out of those thoughts in his head chattering on, all that that voice in your head that chatters on. And If you don't know what voice in your head, it's that one that's saying which voice in your head.
Yeah.
that one that's chattering on, clearing all that so that, you know, Dalai Lama say the Buddha nature, like say the universe, like the spirit can just flow through you.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of times before I had a competition, like the days before I start to get quiet, I want to be by myself. I start meditating and I don't want to talk to people because you want to get into the zone and like clear everything and focus on your purpose, your mission. And I really like that. And I think few things get you that excited because fighting is someone's going to punch you in the face, and that's something that makes you pretty focused. So one thing that I would like to ask you, because we're all about sharing tools, could you guide me through just a short meditation how I would do? We don't have to do the whole thing, but just so we can see how we can give tools to the listener, what they can start with.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll share that with you right now. And for any listener or someone watching it, if they go to my website, www.markdhamma.com, that's MarkDhamma, markdhamma.com.
We'll share the link also.
Share the link /meditate. So markdhamma.com /meditate. I actually have a free meditation guide which will teach you exactly how to get started.
Wonderful.
So a very, very, very simple meditation, yet very effective, is simply just closing your eyes, breathing in and out through your nose, just normal breath, normal breathing, and placing all of your attention on the feeling of the air coming in and out of your nostrils. 100% of your attention purely on the feeling of the air going in and out of your nostrils. Now here's what's likely going to happen. You'll be able to focus on that for a moment or two, and then your mind will start thinking about something else. It'll be like, why am I doing this? This is boring. Or you're going to be doing something else. Or you'll start daydreaming about what you're doing later, or what happened last night, or your mind will likely go to anything else except focusing and concentrating on the air going in and out through your nose. That's just how the mind works. However, this is training. You're training the mind to focus on the present moment. You're training your mind to focus on what's going on right now in the present moment. So when your mind inevitably does drift off, you bring it right back to the breath. As soon as you realize it's gone, you bring it right back to the nostrils, in and out. And at first it can be very, very challenging. Very, very challenging indeed. But over time, as you keep training, as you keep doing it over and over again, it gets better. It gets easier to focus. And what you'll notice is it gets a lot easier to focus in everyday life. It's easier to focus on that essay that you're writing for school or college. It's easier to focus on the work that you're doing, whatever that is, writing that book or whatever it is you do for work. It's easier to focus. It's easier to focus in conversations when you're having with friends, loved ones, anyone. It's easy to be there and actually listen to them instead of thinking about what happened yesterday or what you're doing next. Like, it's easy to be there in the present moment. And what you'll find is that by being there in the present moment, by training that, life gets a lot easier. Life gets a lot simpler. Life gets a lot less stressful. You get happier. It's more fun, and you perform better in whatever you're doing because you're right there giving yourself the full attention, whether that's in martial arts, whether that's in work, whether that's in public speaking, whatever you're doing, you're there giving it your full attention. So it's a lot easier. So I recommend the simple technique, and as I said, you can go to my website and download the guide, which will talk you all the way through it. And 5 minutes is better than nothing. 10 minutes is a really good start. 20 minutes, you're going to see some real results. Anything more than 20 minutes, and then you're starting to get to the Jedi level. So how's that for you, Peter?
I feel laser sharp.
You feel laser sharp?
Yeah.
Well, you've got an advantage. It will probably be easier for you to do that type of meditation than someone else who hasn't, because, you know, you're a world champion karate fighter, so you had to be totally in the moment. You're trained to be in the moment, and aware of everything that's going on, because if you was competing and then you start daydreaming about something else, you're going to get punched in the face or knocked out with a kick or something. So you're not,
you're so right. But one thing that I really love was the thing that we spoke about when you woke up this morning. So I think that a lot of times in this world, people are comparing so much, right? It's easy for him. One thing that I want the listeners is to focus on themselves. So it's not easy for anyone to wake up at 5:30 or 4:30. No one wants that. I had last week I had a guy called Ruben Canada. He's the founder of Jinja beverage, and he said, I believe that almost everybody wakes up early, but most people go to sleep again. And I actually never thought about that, but I think a lot of people do. So it's about doing it, right? Let's talk about mornings. I'm actually working on a book. It's based on the guests I meet on my podcast. It's going to be about morning routines. So I know you are a morning person. Can you share your morning routines? What do you do?
Absolutely, yeah. And just before I share morning routine, I'll sort of wrap up and come to how I actually what I do now and how I help entrepreneurs improve their performance, because morning routine is a big part of that. So I sort of got lost for a while partying and doing all the dealing and doing all the other stuff, and thank God a lot of bad stuff just started happening in my life, and it came to the point where I was like, man, I got to change, because this isn't me. Like, this does not feel right, and my life is falling apart. Like, I'm going to end up in jail or something. Like, I need to stop this. So I did. I gave everything up. I decided to become a personal trainer just because I didn't know what else to do. So I was still doing the fitness modeling. I used to do men's fitness modeling in the UK and other things. And I was a personal trainer helping people actually be healthy. Went into the sports nutrition world, and I moved to London, and I was helping a lot of CEOs and celebrities down there. Because I was in men's fitness, a lot of people would see me in the magazine and be like, oh, I want that guy to train me. So I started to work with, like CEOs, entrepreneurs, and I really liked working with them. But I realized that I needed to, just me training them 3 times a week, 4 times a week wasn't going to solve all their issues. They were a lot of the time fat, stressed and tired, and they wanted to be in great shape. So I realized, like, man, I gotta coach these people. I gotta learn how to change their behavior so that they not only train and exercise and eat well, but so they look after their bodies and that they can perform better in whatever they do work-wise. So I went on some executive coaching courses, and my degree was in sports science and physiology, so it's all about athletic training, how to get an athlete to perform at the best. And I started looking at the entrepreneur as a special type of athlete, more of like a decision-making athlete. And I was working in London with these CEOs, and I started teaching them things like morning routines, just like an athlete would have a morning routine. So for morning routine, I like to call it the morning foundation, because I believe it's really the foundation for the rest of your day. If you're waking up to an alarm clock and you wake up and you're stressed out and you grab a coffee and you quickly throw on your clothes and rush out the door, then oftentimes that being your foundation, you'll find that the rest of the day has that rushed sort of scrambling about feeling and tone to it. Okay, whereas if you in the morning set up a foundation of perhaps meditating for a little while, being still, being quiet, perhaps doing a gratitude practice, which has been shown to make you feel happier and make you more creative, and which is super important as an entrepreneur, allows you to see more opportunities in your environment, so more business opportunities and what you can do. Doing things like journaling, exercise, training, getting your body into a different state so you feel alive, you feel good. There's all types of things you can do in a morning routine, a morning foundation. Some people like to read first thing. It's just having one, I believe, is important. Having some type of routine that you can do day in and day out to get you operating at your best for the rest of the day.
And what's the one thing that you need to do in the morning to have a good day?
Great question. I would actually say it starts the night before.
Yeah.
Because I know we're talking about getting up early, and I think getting up early is great, but what's the secret to getting up early?
Go to bed at time.
Go to bed early.
Yeah.
That's it. So if you want to have a good day, the best thing you can do is get a good night's sleep. Because if you don't get enough sleep, you're probably going to be grouchy and in a mood, and your brain's definitely not working optimally. 50 years of research show that most people need between about 7 and 9 hours sleep. And everybody tends to have a good idea of how much sleep they really need. Some people can get by on less than that. Some people need a bit more. By and large though, 7 to 9 hours sleep is what the research shows is ideal, and most people intuitively know. So for me, I know from having 32 years of experience with myself so far that I really need about 8 to 8.5 hours of sleep to be golden. You know, if I go to sleep before 10 p.m., which is what I recommend people do, if I go to sleep 8:39 before 10 and I don't have an alarm, usually I wake up about 8.5 hours and I feel great. I'm like fully refreshed. So I would say that first of all, it starts with having a good night's sleep, because this morning I didn't get as much sleep as I usually do. I got like 6 hours or something, but tonight I'm getting an early night. Tomorrow I'll be getting an early night. So it definitely starts with your sleep, and that's really a message I want to share with people, because I used to think that it doesn't matter, you don't need sleep. Sleep's for losers. You get up and you don't need sleep. Just get up and hustle. Well, that's not at all what the research says, and that's not at all what the top athletes in the world are doing. Tom Brady, the arguably the best quarterback of all time, he's been going to sleep at 8:30 for like the last 10 years or something. Every night, 8:30 p.m. he's asleep, because we know from the research that human beings, our physiology is modulated by the sun. Like we're on the sun's time. When the sun goes up and the light gets on our eyes, naturally that wakes us up. When the sun goes down and we're not around all these artificial lights and TV screens and laptops and cell phones, when it's dark, we usually just get tired and want to go to sleep, like, because our brain is modulated by the sun, our physiology is. And I say to people, if you've ever been camping and you're out in the wilderness and there's not much light around, usually when you're camping, you find that you tend to feel tired really, really early. It's because, the sun's gone down and there's not a lot of artificial light around, so you feel tired. And you usually wake up really early when the sun comes up. Like, that's how we're designed to live. That's what we've been doing for the millennia of being around. It's just recently, the past 100 years or so, these artificial lights have mean that we can stay up longer than we actually would do. So I'm like the anti wake up, you don't need sleep. I'm like, no, you need your sleep. Focus on your sleep.
Yeah. But what do you say though to an entrepreneur that said, that's bullshit, I'm building my company here, I need to work 80, 90 hours a week to create this? What do you say to that person?
Well, you say to that person, if you're working harder rather than smarter. Your brain isn't functional. Your brain is not performing at your best. You are not making the best decisions if you're sleep deprived. Simple that. Think of a time when you're really, really tired, and ask yourself, when you're really, really tired, is that when you have the best ideas? Is that when you're the best when you're speaking to your spouse or your family? Is that when you're the best you? When you're really, really tired, is that when you're best in the gym or training? Are you the best at performing your skills when you're really, really tired? In the US and a lot of countries, there's laws. Well, actually here in Los Angeles, there's laws around the sleep laws. So if you're working on a movie set and you finish at like 4 a.m. in the morning, you're not allowed to go back into work for like 12 hours or something. You can't go back till 4 p.m. If you're driving a truck, you can't just work for 20 hours. Like, there's laws in place where you need to go to sleep for a certain amount of time before you can start driving again. Well, why is that? It's because you're a danger to yourself and to everyone else when you're sleep deprived. Being sleep deprived is actually, the research shows, it's equivalent to being on drugs oftentimes, or being drunk. So if you're working 80, 90 hours, how many of those hours are effective hours? How many of those hours are you just wasting doing mindless tasks that aren't moving you forward in your business at all? You're just doing it, being busy instead of effective.
No, I think you're so right. And I think it's a lot of times when you think you don't have time, I think you have to be more focused on what's really moving the needle.
Yes.
And I think that's so hard. And that leads to the next question, because what I'm trying to do here is redefine success, because being successful might be having the best business, but for me, success is to have the things you have, you work with something that you enjoy. Mm-hmm. You have the finances, so you can live the life you want. You have good relationships, and you're healthy in both mind and body. Mm-hmm. So how do you have time for all these things?
Great question. Well, it's really to prioritize. You're not going to have time for everything. You know, as simple as that. You're not going to have time for everything. You know, it's funny when I speak to. So I was a personal trainer, right? That's what got me into all this high performance coaching. I was personal training, and it was funny how many people I would meet. He would tell me they don't have time to train. They don't have time to exercise. Yeah. You know, you have all these people. Oh, I don't have any time to exercise. And I'll be like, well, what are you doing? Like, tell me your schedule. Like, all right, well, I'm up at 6, and you know, I eat my breakfast, and then in London, you know, I get on the tube to work, and I get work at 8. And then I finish at 6, and then I get on the tube home and I eat, and then I watch my favorite TV series for 2 or 3 hours, you know, and then I'll go to sleep. And I'm like, well, you just watch your favorite TV series for 2 or 3 hours. You could have done some exercise then. No, but I can do my training. I like watching the TV. You know, you're like, well, okay, well, fair enough. Just, it's not that you don't have enough time. It's just that watching TV for you right now is more important than training or exercising. And I'll speak to entrepreneurs, I don't have time, you know, I can't sleep, I gotta hustle. And then you look at the day and you'll see how many hours are wasted on Facebook, on YouTube, you know, wanting to catch the show at the evening, and they're like wasting time. So a lot of it is about planning your time. Like, so Peter right now, I don't know if you see this, but I go around with my agenda in my pocket.
I love it.
I got my whole day planned out.
You're doing it old school on paper too, yeah.
It's actually a billionaire told me to do this. He said, every night before you go to sleep, you can actually download this from our website as well.
What's it called?
I call it a daily action planner.
Beautiful.
So markdhamma.com/action planner. It's just a template you can use. I have my whole plan from 6 o'clock in the morning when I got to the Uber to the gym. Everything itemized, exactly what I'm doing. You know, right now here with you, Peter, 10 till 11 on this, and what I'm doing all the way till I go to sleep. I've got everything itemized. So never at any point during the day am I like, oh, what should I be doing now with my time? Yeah. Because most entrepreneurs are reactive. Yeah. They're not following a plan. They're not following a script. They're not thinking in advance, how can I maximize my day? How can I get the most leverage? Instead, they're waking up, they're going to the phone, they're looking at the emails like, oh, I got an email by this person, I got to reply. Oh, I got a phone call from this person, I got to reply. Oh, I got a text message. And in the end, they're what one of my friends called a busy fool. They're stressed out, they're overwhelmed, they're running around all day, feeling super busy, super stressed. And then they get into bed at night feeling dissatisfied on how much they actually got done, frustrated with themselves, like, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so tired, but I didn't really get anything done. I didn't get anything of importance done. And then they get pissed off at themselves. they're frustrated and they go to sleep, and then they do the same again until they're absolutely stressed out, burned out, tired, and eventually get sick.
No, you're so right. I think knowing what you need to do today and have a plan, that's crucial. Because if you look at the best athletes, they don't just go into the gym and say, what am I going to do today? Oh, there's a barbell, let's start doing this. I feel like there's a plan, there's a system, you know, and I think we can learn a lot from sports in that sense, even as entrepreneurs or as human beings. Yeah. So you have to plan your time, because otherwise you will be reactive, just like you said. And I had Dr. Andrew Hill, a brain neuroscientist here, and he talked about that too. If you wake up like you're just reactive all the time, and nothing good happens when you just react to things, because we're responding to new things all the time. And that's why I almost get pissed off when I see people on their phone all the time. I want to do, I don't know if you listen to this, I want to slap the phone away. Yeah. I want to have like some, because come on, life is here. And of course you have to be on the phone, but you don't have to check your email every single minute, you know. And that's why I love like fighting or doing a podcast now, because I have to be in the moment with you. And that's a reflection that I have. So I want to talk about, you lived with Tai Lopez. Tai Lopez is really good at what he does. He inspired me a lot to read more and to do more, and I really like his work. And you lived with him for a couple of months, right? Can you just talk us through how did you get to live with him, and what did you learn during that period?
Yeah, so I moved out to the US to get a master's degree in positive organizational psychology under the author of the book Flow, a guy called Dr. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and he did the original research on how to get into a flow state, so how to get into the zone, how to be present, how what the actual psychological research says about that, and he did experiments to do it. So I was working in London, you know, doing a lot of coaching with entrepreneurs, and I was like, you know, I really want to take my psychology game to the next level so I can help these entrepreneurs even more. So that's when I moved out to the States to study under Dr. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. And while I was in grad school, I was studying, I was working, I was still coaching internationally and going to school. There's a podcast that I've followed for years, and you know, gratefully the guy's now a good friend of mine, a guy called Ben Greenfield. So he's got the Ben Greenfield Fitness podcast, and this guy's one of like the fittest guys on the planet. So I'm one of the smartest guys as well in optimal health performance. So I always listen to his stuff and like, you know, try things on myself and with my clients. And one day he had Tai Lopez on. And this is a few years back. This is before anyone knew who Tai Lopez was. And Tai Lopez went on his podcast talking about business, and I was like, oh, this guy's like knows what he's talking about. So I was like, let me see if he has a podcast. And at the time, I think he had like 3 or 4 podcasts out, like 3 or 4 episodes of a podcast. So I listened to them. I was like, man, this guy's like on fire. Like obviously knows a lot about business. And I was like, well, I live in LA. That's where I studied. And he lives in Hollywood, and he likes to read books. He's interested in positive psychology, which was what my master's in. So I just wrote him a letter and sent him a couple of books and said, hey, you know, I'd love to come see what you're doing and see if I can help out. And I did. I went out. He invited me out to his home in the Hollywood Hills, and I met him, his team, and his family who was working with him. And I said, hey, I'd love to help out, you know, like I'm good at coaching, you know, this is what I've been doing, executive coaching, I've been doing this for a few years. And he was like, all right, well, you know, why don't you come volunteer for a couple of weeks, and if it works out, we'll have you on, you know, we'll get working with you on a more formal capacity. So I did, I went out and I was working in more formal capacity. And the thing was, I was in grad school, which was about 50 miles away from where he was in the Hollywood Hills. So I wanted to relocate to Hollywood, and to help me relocate, Tai let me stay at his place, because he was like, well, now he's got like numerous homes, but at the time he had this like 3-story home in the Hollywood Hills, and he was kind enough to let me stay there while I like figured out my grad school stuff and relocated to Hollywood. So yeah, I got to work with him. I got to live with him for about 3 months. I lived with him and I worked with him for about 9 months. And he was really an incredible mentor for me. You know, I've been really good at coaching and optimal health and optimal mindset things, but not so much at the time. I was not so much on the business side. I was more of a practitioner, you know, rather than a businessman. You know, so I knew how to get people to optimal level, but I didn't really know anything about marketing. I certainly didn't know anything about online marketing or, you know, business. And he really gave me a solid foundational education in all of that stuff. And yeah, he operates at a real high performance. He really does read a book every day. That's not BS. Like, he actually does do that. And one of the big things I learned from Ty is he always has time to have fun. Always. Every day he's playing basketball, or, you know, he's going to a comedy show, or he's like sharing like comedy with his friends on YouTube. He always has time for a joke and a laugh. So he's in a good mood. Ty, people who know Ty know the majority of the time is in a really good mood. And obviously now and again he can be in a bad mood, but he's a very joyful, like, fun-loving character.
I love that. And I love people that work with themselves. And that's why I love having you here, because when I saw you, like, wow, this guy, he's coming here in a suit. He's been to the gym. You have a bag. I was like, are you traveling? No, I'm just bringing my gym clothes. And I love that, because we know, living in LA, you might go into another meeting or something else, and you need to bring your stuff. You need to bring your food. And coming this prepared and show up, that means that you take your life seriously.
Yeah.
And I have a couple of friends from Sweden here now, and I'm so impressed by them. And especially one guy, he works in finance, but he knows a lot about everything. And he's in good shape. He's take care of his family. And when I see people like that, I said, wow, these people take their life seriously, but they still have time to have fun.
Yeah.
And that is something that I want more people to have, because we're talking about meditation. We're talking about working out, creating something. And this is maybe the 1% of the population, maybe less, that actually does this. But what if we can increase that to 10%?
Wow.
Maybe not everybody needs to be a businessman, but maybe they can meditate for 5 minutes, maybe hug their wife a little bit more often, or do something to take their life seriously, and to take care of your mind and your body, instead of just watching the newest Netflix show. Or so what can we do? Because we want to do this. What do you think, if we put our brains together right now, what can we do to talk to those people that deep down they want to do something, but they don't know how?
Peter, I think you're already doing it, man. You know, we're here on your podcast, which is getting that message out to people. Right here, I've got your book.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think you're already doing it, Peter.
Thanks. And what do you plan on do the next 10, 20 years to spread your message and your mission?
Yeah, so really there's that's a great question. So there's really three organizations that I'm creating. One of them I've already created, which is, you know, right now I call it Supercharged Entrepreneurs, but it's an organization with the mission of helping entrepreneurs increase their health, happiness, and success rate, and so I can help them make better businesses, more conscious businesses, and help them get what they want from life. And the other organization that I'm creating I'm using the working title called FRI, which is the Forest Restoration Institute. So it's a non-profit with the mission of restoring the Earth's forests. Simple as that. And then the third organization is what I'm currently calling Dhamma Seed, which is it's basically a venture capital firm who invests in pro-environmental businesses. So if you come to me and you've got a business idea, or you've been running a business that is good for the environment, in some way, then we would help finance you. Yeah. So those are the 3 organizations that, has my attention.
Beautiful. And how do you work with your personal life? We talked about working out, meditate. How do you work with relationships?
Yeah. So big thing. So I'm married. I've been married just, it'll be 2 years in December.
Congrats.
So about 18 months so far. And we have a little girl. We've got a 4-month-old little girl.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah. So I think something that's key for relationships, and I recommend to entrepreneurs or any busy people, anyone actually, is having at least one date night a week. So one night where you go out with your spouse and it's just like a date when you first met. You do something fun. You just spend time together like that, and then having at least one date day during the week where you spend the whole day with your spouse, or if you've got kids, your spouse and your kids. At least that, I've got friends who didn't do that in the relationships, and the relationships suffer and they break up. Like, I can list friend after friend, because all my friends are entrepreneurs, because that's what I do, or business owners and so on. And it's like, if you run a business, that like there's always more work you can do. Yeah. There's always more. Like, you could work 24/7 and you'd still need to do more work. There's always more you could do, always. Yeah. So I really believe in setting boundaries for the important things in life, having at least one date day and at least one date night. So that's what me and my wife do. And then we like to go away just on a mini vacation every 6 weeks, just for a long weekend or something. And that helps us really reconnect. But I would say those things are the minimum. Date night, date day, and the mini vacation at a minimum.
Yeah, those are great tools. And I think we can't forget to spend time together and actually connect, because it's so easy when you have more and more work to focus on that. But what happens if your spouse leaves you? Would you, like, that's the problem. Then you can't go back. So what you're saying is great. Mark, we had a wonderful time, and I know you have a busy day on your agenda. So I only have 2 more questions, okay, and then we're gonna head out. It's a beautiful day. And the first one is, imagine you're 87 years old. Mm-hmm. You're sitting in a rocking chair overlooking the ocean, or maybe your favorite spot in the world, and think back on your life. What do you want to see? What do you want to have accomplished and done to say, wow, I can die today?
Oh, well, you know what? That's a great question. First of all, I would say I definitely want to live a lot longer than 87 years old.
Me too. Me too.
Like a high performance coach, optimal health. I want to be like getting at least in the 120s, feeling good, at least minimum. But I think, if I can look back and say, you know what, in some way, some fashion, I have left the world a better place for me being in it, then I feel like that's a good job. In some way, somehow, I've done more good than bad. I've made the world a bit better, or a lot better, whatever, after me being in it, then I can die today. And I think, sometimes it's not about what you've done in life. And I don't necessarily think it's about like what you've accomplished. I think in the West we think that, like, oh, it's what have you accomplished? Like, oh, you're Bill Gates and you've eradicated malaria, or you're Elon Musk and now everyone has electric cars and there's less pollution or something. I don't necessarily think that like that has to be the goal in life. I think the goal for me, if I'm a loving, compassionate human being and I'm present and I care for people and I show love and compassion, I'm all right dying like that. I don't think it's necessarily what tangible material thing you've done. I think it's more about your being. I think it's more about being a loving, compassionate being, and I think you've done the universe as well by being a loving, compassionate being.
I totally agree with you, because I think even if you accomplish things and are an asshole, you don't respect people, you don't talk to people, you don't smile to people. At the end of the day, is not good. You have to give, and that's what we're all about. And Bruce Lee said one thing that I really like. He said, I did what I wanted to do in life, and you can't expect more. You know, if you do what you want, you can't really expect more. And the last question that I have is, if there would be one tool that you can give to the listeners that they can do right now after listening or watching this to get closer to their dream, their goals, what would be the first step they can do right now?
Well, I got 2 tools for you. You can go to my website, go to markdhamma.com/meditate and download the meditation guide and do it right now. Give that meditation a go. markdhamma.com/meditate. Or you can get the daily action planner, which is I provide a free template so you can create your own, and that's markdhamma.com/action planner. So I'd say do one of those things right now, or do them both, because you can use this right now and become more focused and get better results in your life, whatever it is for you.
Yeah, those are great tools. So I believe that, just like Mark said, start meditating and start planning your days, because otherwise you will be reactive, just like we spoke about, and you don't want to be reactive all your life. You want to start being ahead of the game a little bit. So I want to thank everybody for watching and listening in to the I Love Success podcast. I had a wonderful time today with Mark Dhamma, and I'm so grateful he was here. If you like this podcast, give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share us, and help us spread this mission, because I can't certainly do it myself. Mark can't do it himself, but if we add each other together, we can do great in this world, and that's what it's all about. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful day.